Okay, happy Friday and welcome everybody. Happy New Year. We made it over the hump and it's now 2021. And of course, I'm always excited about my guests, but I'm especially excited today because we have our first man, which I'm excited about. And his name is Hirsch Serman, and he is with Lifecycle Financial. And I really wanted to have Hirsch on because he does something really super unique that will help our seniors and families make better decisions about where they should live. So I'm going to get just started and say hi, Hirsch. Welcome.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here.
Good. So, there are many different options for seniors all across, and there's rentals, there's your buy-in, all kinds of things. So tell me how you help.
I help people to evaluate, one of the services I should say really is to help them evaluate their current living situation financially to the option that they are looking at. Very often, as you know, they want to downsize, and that downsize means, do I buy something smaller, rent something smaller? Do I look at a retirement community, which tends to be a very common one for people to do? And then I can run their numbers side by side and help them understand and think about certain things that, might be a little unique to, let's say, going into a retirement community that they're not familiar with as well.
Right, because I think, I have a lot of people, they do two things that are really, some of these facilities you have to buy into,
yes,
and then you pay rent. And then some people want to just pay rent. So can you look at all of these facilities side by side and bring up maybe what kind of things come up that they're not thinking of that?
I think, people generally, they go to what they're familiar with. Here's my housing costs. I know it's a big piece. It's very obvious because that's probably the biggest piece that's going to change.
Right.
And it's such a large dollar figure in general. They might be thinking, let's say they go into a retirement community. Oh, most of my meals are going to be accounted for. They might realize their grocery bill won't be as much. But there's a lot of other things that are going to change with that. And they need to look at all these changes that might be occurring individually, I think. So, for example, if you're a married couple going into independent living, often you might get rid of one of your cars because a lot of your entertainment is being, on site, your food is, things like that. So that's a major change, but people aren't always thinking about it. But
right.
Depending on that, it easily can be $800 a month just on your car, your insurance, your payment, your gas, everything else.
Right.
We need to understand if you are going to get any add-on services. You get this price, this rent price, let's say, and it seems like a pretty big number. And you think sometimes, especially if you're not familiar, everything's included. So, and then you get there and you realize, no, this isn't included or that's not included. And so that's another piece where I think sometimes, I can highlight that to them and they can make educated decisions. The other piece that I think, this is a really big one that people don't know how to do, and it gets pretty complex because when you have a home that's got equity, and a lot of people I've dealt with, they might be in the home for 20 years and it's almost paid off. There's a lot of equity, and how does that play in? So I can invest that and offset some of the costs because now I've got some income coming in, but I need to understand I might be losing deductions that my house is affording me. And that, needs to be offset. There's also going to be taxes that play involved. So I think really it's quite a complex exercise if you're really wanting to do a thorough comparison between the lifestyle that you're living right now and what does it cost, and should I look at, community A, community B, or whatever I'm looking at, how does that play in, and being able to look at the numbers side by side and compare. And
right. And I think people will say, oh, well, I don't have this tax and I don't have that. And they sort of just round it off in their head. And it's sort of like measuring calories like that. Well, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
They find out that it's not quite that simple because depending on what you do with the money will affect your tax rate, what kind of, what your income is going to do. If you need long-term care, what's the next step? How much is that going to cost?
Yeah,
All
there's a
of,
lot of pieces like that I've seen where, somebody had a significant interest payment every year on their home. They were giving charitable deductions. They were taking the equity, the real estate taxes, and it was lowering the marginal tax rate for their income because they had a significant itemized deduction category. When they took their home out of the equation, they did not reach the now 24,000 roughly standard deduction for a married couple, and that played in because now their tax rate was higher and needed to understand that piece as well. So yeah,
and,
it can really play in.
and then the cool thing is, like, let's say you figure that out, then can you help them invest in a proper investment? Do you do that as well, or do you send them
I can advise, and I have unbelievable referrals. I've
Okay.
really built a fantastic network. The last thing I want somebody to think is I'm guiding them so that I'm going to get their money to invest.
Right.
Sometimes it could be a perception. I don't think there is if
Right.
you're upfront, but there could be the perception. And I'd rather hand that to the people that's what they focus on full time. You're
Right.
going to get a better outcome from that. But I've got great people, and I
Okay.
truly look at them as an extension of myself. They really do a great job.
So that's great. So you can say to somebody, okay, here's 3 people, 2 people, call them, use who you're
Exactly.
comfortable with, but they'll give you some good investments and taking into consideration this whole, because I think the tax picture is huge.
It is. And, when they speak to people, I mean, this is just generally not even if you come through somebody I refer you to, you really do want to think about those investments. You want to understand what is my risk tolerance? What is my duration? What is my purpose for this money? And
Right.
that will help you speak to your professional in how it's going to get invested, because it should be working for you, not making you worry, right? So
Right.
that's really what you want.
Right. Well, that's what both of us do is we help families sleep at night so
Exactly.
they don't have to panic about and I think just while we're discussing it, the home, a lot of people think their home is worth more than it's worth. And it's really important to get that correct figure up front. So working with you, you sort of force the issue to they may
Right.
say, oh, it's worth so and so. Well, I'm sure you'll say, let's get a real number, not just
And Betsy, you know this very well. Even if you are spot on what you're going to sell your home for, you have to take an automatic deduction of 8%. I'm rounding a little bit,
yes.
yes, but you got to take a deduction there of 8% of what you actually going to receive because of commissions and closing costs. That's just part of the process, and
Right.
to understand that comes out of your equity as well. So
That's right. And so what's really cool is, and you give it like a spreadsheet. So I think it's really helpful that people see this in black and white, and
right.
then they can go line item and say, oh, instead of just saying, well, I'm going to sell my house it goes back to the calories as far as I'm concerned. Well, I'm going to sell my house for 340. I don't know anything. So that's a straight 340. And no. After you pay your taxes that you have to leave and everything and the move and the this and the that, it's a different number.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, are you saying that calories on vacation do count? No.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of people do what I call mental math with that,
Right.
and this is the same kind of thing. There's too many pieces to the puzzle to do mental math with where you're going to be. And I know that you also help people with maybe they don't want to go to a facility, but they want to hire in-home care and to compare those two, like should my
Correct.
yeah, and from a financial standpoint only. I mean, then we take into the emotional
Correct.
cost.
I can help them look at what would a facility cost them, and then saying, well, if I stayed at home at whatever rate the people coming into your home to help you with, what's their rate? We can look at how many hours potentially a week or a month can I afford until I'm kind of buffing up against what maybe that retirement community or assisted living might cost me. And I can, again, make that decision. Is it worth my while staying in the home? I love my home versus, this could become Not always, but it could become quite prohibitive. Maybe I really do need to think about what is the right community for me, where I can, look at my the longevity of my finances as well with this as well.
Right. And I think when people have the facts in front of them,
Yeah.
they can make the family or the adult parent themselves, it's so much easier to make a smart decision when they have all that in front of them. That's why I'm so excited about what you do.
I'm a huge proponent of people becoming educated. I think
Yes.
we make decisions and they can come back and bite us financially without understanding what we're signing or what we're signing up for, definitely. That
Right.
is a huge piece for them.
And I think the other thing is that our generation, a lot of people maybe a little older than us, it's like nursing home, bad thing. But now there are so many options. It has become so confusing. It's
Very
like
true.
on every corner is a different kind of senior facility. And that's complicated. It's not just one kind.
Right. Right. And, if you said to somebody, would you like to live in, a country club type area, they would be like, yeah, that sounds great. Well, quite honestly, there's a lot of communities that have built that kind of a facility for themselves, that it feels almost like that. But if you go back to the old school thinking of what it used to be 20, 30 years ago, or, even more sometimes, it's a vastly different market of options to what you can get. And it's definitely eye-opening if you've never looked at it before.
Right. And that's the thing. And most of us don't look at it until there's an emergency.
Exactly.
And then it's a million different places. And both of us have resources for that as well, to connect anybody who might be watching with great people that can help you pick facilities and give you tours and point you in the right direction.
And on your needs and your habits and wants, which is another very important piece. This is definitely more than just a bed and breakfast where I sleep and I eat. There's so much more that goes into living, and they can help you with those kind of things as well.
Right. That's great. Anything else, Hirsch, that you want to tell us that I know you're an MBA, you're a CPA, you're...
What else? I can tell you. Well, I guess the first thing, I'll just highlight very quick some of the other. I do people's taxes. And if anyone needs a tax person, tax season is upon us. I know it's only the first week of January, but it really is upon us. You'll be amazed. I also do daily money management for people. So whether it's I'm at a stage in my life I just don't want to do this, or whether sometimes it's a capacity issue for mom or dad, I can certainly step in there and help. It's nice to have that person checking everything. We can do it as well for you. And it's a lot more than just getting a bill and paying it. It's making sure that it's actually a legitimate bill. On the insurance side, matching it up to your EOBs and making sure it went through insurance appropriately, and making sure there are no late fees or interest payments, things like that. So we do more than just get a bill, pay a bill. It's significantly more. And then obviously this comparison piece as well, which you rather want to have this information up front than sign a document, commit yourself to 12 months at a community, let's say, and figure out, it's $1,500 a month more than I really thought it was going to be. Right. The last thing you ever want is a financial surprise like that, for sure.
No, and especially not at that stage of life.
Right.
Exactly. I don't know about you, but I'm finished with those. By the time I get there, I'm done with them.
Well, it is time to enjoy your life. It is time to socialize and have the friends that you've made, but new friends, because you will meet a lot of people in these communities. And there's times to think about, is it worth my while? Just, the kind of admin kind of work in my life, do I really need to be doing it? And again, it needs to be right for you. I'm not saying everybody should hand it off. It does need to be right for you, but I think using the right professionals at the right time, getting the education that you need, and buying on an education, not on price, which is actually what we did. We were told, it's $7,200. We had no idea what that meant. We thought everything was included because it was, $4,500 more than my mom's mortgage was. And we really didn't know. And we got a little bit of a surprise, I will be honest, unfortunately. But
Right.
you don't have to. You can really buy on education. And, I would recommend, if you're in time crunch, like you said, sometimes there's been a fall or injury and you don't have the time, for a month or two to really evaluate, you should really be speaking to a professional to do a lot of the legwork for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because we do these things all the time, over and
Right.
over, and we know the questions to ask, where these facilities are popping up all over, and who even knows? And they're just so. It's great advice. Well, I want to thank you, Hirsch, for being with me today and opening our 2021 season. I'm so excited that we are in a new year and everything. We're going to move forward and send out positive energy all across the universe. And if anybody wants your information, it is on this broadcast, or they can contact, your email is right there. They can email you. They can email or text me, and I'll be happy to get them in touch with you.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
All right, this was a lot of fun. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.